I'm Shay McGalley.
And I'm David Keener.
And this is the Hourlings podcast project. Tonight we're going to have a little bit of fun. Tonight we're going to be talking about books that have been made into movies that we love. So we've all picked some, and we'll go around, and we're going to preface this by we're just going to get out of the way a ton of big franchises that have come from movies. They're talking about things like The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, and James Bond. What else did you have, Dave?
Game of Thrones.
Shay, what's that?
That's not a movie.
Game of Thrones?
Oh no,
it's seven seasons.
Yeah,
it's a series. It's a series.
It's epic. It's epic.
It's epic. And
I'll also add Sherlock Holmes to that list.
Yeah.
And did I mention James Bond? James Bond.
Did.
We're not going to talk about that. We're going to go around a little bit and talk about some of our favorite books that have been made into movies. Now, we don't necessarily have to stick to science fiction and fantasy, which the nerds on this podcast usually cling to that stuff. So I have on my list several things that are not there. So I guess I'll start. The first one on my list is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. It's interesting that I had a very progressive teacher at school that had us read A Clockwork Orange. And although we couldn't see the movie because we were too young to see the movie, but I actually really, really enjoy the movie. And it's kind of interesting how the dystopian future there seems like it's nowhere near as whacked as the world is right now. So that's my first pick, A Clockwork Orange. Stanley Kubrick, too.
Yep.
Shay, what's yours?
My first pick has to be The Hunger Games, and I'm very biased because I was super blessed to be on all the sets for those movies. So I got to see it being made, and really exciting to watch, the filmmaking process. And the author Suzanne Collins was often on set to consult, and it was just really cool. It was just an awesome experience. And then to see it, come to life on the big screen. I love how there were specific film, like camera techniques that the filmmakers used to convey like tension and to convey the fear that was surrounding the games. One thing that the first movie is known for is its shaky camera. Used a lot of shaky cam throughout, which just kind of gave you an unnerving feeling. Obviously the acting was great. So that's my favorite, just because I'm a little biased and super blessed. But
I'll agree with you. It's a good film.
Yeah,
I like the first one far better than the others in the movie.
the first one's probably my favorite, but the second one was pretty good too.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the book as well. I read the book way before the movie came out, and I got to say, in the movie, they weren't hungry enough.
Yeah.
The survival aspect was a little thin in the actual movie. Everything moved too fast. David, what's your pick?
All right, my first pick is actually the movie Divergent. Now, I enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed the film. I feel it's kind of inspirational. I do not like the other books, and I do not like the other movies. I pretend that they don't exist. But Divergent, one and done, I think it's a pretty solid film all the way through. A nice heroic journey for our heroine.
Dave, I'm curious, can you explain a little more like what the first movie got so right about the adaptation and what the other movies did not get right, in your opinion?
I think the other movies started to depend on, and the other books started to depend on, how did that whole situation, this dystopian situation arise? And I think the author missed something, and also I don't think that she really developed a character arc for her main character that people could really believe in, or at least that I couldn't. And so the other books and the other movies just don't really interest me at all.
Interesting. Was it the same director?
I don't recall if they were all directed by the same person, but I wouldn't blame it on the director because I think the material petered out as well. And I'll add that although it's a trilogy, they were going to make it into 4 movies, and they never made the 4th movie because the sales kept dropping off so precipitously.
But that was during the trend where like that was the thing to do. You split the last book into 2, no matter whether it justified it or not. That was kind of the trend at the time.
And Harry Potter could justify it with their 7th and 8th movies. I'm not sure that this one really could. And the
Hunger
fact
Games
that,
did it too.
And the fact that it's a somewhat less than stellar ending, it's kind of like the series didn't land well.
Interesting.
Yeah, it happens with a lot of series. I think that, a lot of series get written because, readers demand it, and it may not have been on the author's agenda. I think.
It's hard to say no when the publisher offers you a lot of money for the next book in a series you weren't intending to write.
Yeah. So my next pick is my next author is Cormac McCarthy. He actually had 2 great books made into great movies. The first of which is No Country for Old Men. I love the movie. I love the book. And the other one is The Road. Some books you love them, but man, you only can read them once. And that movie, I don't want to see that movie again either. It's a really great movie, but it falls into like the Schindler's List category of movies that is really awesome, but you never want to see it again. So that's my pick. Cormac McCarthy.
Nice. Well, I'm going to be kind of cliche because I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but I'm not over it. I really love the adaptation of Dune, this new one. I'm not over it. I love everything about it. It was so impressive how long it was, yet how well edited it was. That it was never dragged. It hit all the beats. The acting was great. It managed to take something that many people criticized was sort of a tired trope, even though Star Wars arguably came, closer to stealing from it than vice versa in its lifetime as a series. But it just made it so fresh, and I love that adaptation. Should have won the Oscar.
Yeah, it's one of the adaptations that have been made over and over again.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 4 different versions of.
But this one's the best.
I think 3. There is one by David Lynch in the 80s that bombed. There is one on the Sci-Fi.
Yeah, a little mini series on Sci-Fi Channel, which was pretty good. I have that on DVD, and now this one. I think there was an animated version.
This one's the best.
Yeah, I think.
There's an animated Lord of the Rings. I don't know about a Dune.
Yeah, so.
Everybody look it up.
Who's next? What do we got next?
It's me. How to Train Your Dragon.
Nice.
Yeah, I didn't see this for a long time, but people kept telling me it was good, and it was on Netflix one time, and so I watched it, and I'm watching it, and I'm going, this is a good film. This is hitting like all the tropes for a good fantasy story. Oh, this is really making me care about the characters. Oh, that's so cool. I mean, that was like my litany as I'm watching the film, and I came away from it going, yes, it's a film that children can watch, but there's no reason why an adult can't watch that film and have as much of a good time as a kid.
I really love the art design in that movie too.
Yep.
Yeah, it was beautiful, really super beautiful.
But well done on every level.
So my next one is the movie Minority Report. That is actually based on a short story by Philip K. Dick. And the short story was really very short. And it's interesting how many movies are made from short stories because they convey a little bit better. And I kind of like that too, because one of the things that disappoints me sometimes when I see an adaptation from a book is all the stuff that they got to leave out. of the movie because, well, they've only got 2 hours to do it instead of the 10 hours that it takes you to read a book. So Minority Report's great movie, as well as a good short story.
It takes you 10 hours to read a book?
Depends on the book.
I can see that for Game of Thrones, maybe.
All right, this next one of mine is very controversial, and I don't want to get any judgment for anybody for this. But I really liked the adaptation of Twilight into a movie because I thought it was like very artistic. It had like a blue filter on it. It was very like the music was really well picked, and it was just kind of weird, and it was offbeat. It had an indie vibe to it. I don't know about the next ones. The next one's got very Hollywood, but the first one felt like a little indie movie that something you could just like discover. And I know that Marty's already judging me and I don't like it, but I'm going to stick by it. That's my pick.
Well,
I confess, I actually own both the book and the movie.
Yay!
and I'll confess that I particularly think that the director, I believe it was a woman director.
Yes, it was.
Made the best possible Twilight movie that was possibly achievable.
Yes. Exactly.
The only thing that bothered me was the glittery vampire scene.
Yeah.
But that only lasted 30 seconds, and I could pretend that it didn't happen.
That soundtrack slaps. That's an amazing soundtrack.
There's a few other things I could quibble about, but basically it's a fairly solid film.
Yeah. All right. Hey. All right. I dodged your
film
bullet.
that had any right to be.
David, what do you got next?
Oh, Jurassic Park. Now I'm one of those kids. When I was a kid, I entered my dinosaur phase, and I never left. So when Jurassic Park came along, I mean, I'd already read the book, but I'm not sure that people understand now how groundbreaking Jurassic Park was. I mean, Steven Spielberg directed it. He'd gone on from some of the other things he directed, like Raiders of the Lost Ark and stuff, and he'd done some artsy films and Oscar bait and stuff like that. And nobody had ever done CGI creatures like this before. Like Jurassic Park was the first. And even in Hollywood, they weren't sure that it could actually be pulled off or whatever. And then Jurassic Park arrived as a movie, and people were like, oh man, Spielberg's done it again. It was the #1 film, and the writer, Michael Crichton, had the #1 film, the #1 television series with ER, and the #1 book with, I believe it was Rising Sun at the same time. But Jurassic Park, I mean, it's just a movie. It doesn't adapt everything from the book, but it gets everything right that it needs to, and the dinosaurs look like you imagine dinosaurs should look. It was awesome.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in the theater. It was like opening weekend, and it's incredible how many people were like, holy shit. And it
on
was
a big screen when that brontosaurus steps out. Yeah.
Or when they're getting chased by the Tyrannosaurus, you know. And everybody loves lawyers getting eaten by dinosaurs now.
Do we like the Chris Pratt remakes or sequels, or whatever you call them?
Yeah, I think that it's you know, getting a little crazy because, you know, they're out in the world now. It's I'll still they'll always get my money. I'll see them.
I will say I was not a huge fan of the second Jurassic Park film, and I thought the third one was terrible. But the new Jurassic World ones, I like them. They're pretty much delivering what they're promising. And rather than having the dinosaur escaped again, they're like, all the dinosaurs are out. Deal with it. I kind of like it. It's bold. I think they've done a pretty good job.
Deal with it. I like that.
Deal with it.
Okay, my next step adaptation is The Martian by Andy Weir.
Good check. Good check.
I remember loving the book big time. I ate that book really fast on vacation, and it was a great pick for a movie. It's the first place I heard the term competency porn, where your hero is the hero specifically because he's incredibly competent at something. And I confess that I have written characters like that in some of my novels. And so The Martian by Andy Weir, I highly recommend both the book and the movie.
There are a few times when books or the adaptations are better than the books. Maybe some of you guys feel that way. Actually, let me check in. Any of the books that you mentioned so far, the movies you mentioned so far, would you say that they were better than the movie? I'm not speaking about today. You know what I mean? Do you say that the movie's better than the book? Have any of those?
I have an example.
But none of the ones you already said.
None of the ones I already said, I don't think.
Really?
I'll address that then. So for Jurassic Park, I think the book and the movie, they're the same story, but the book is much more detailed, and so it has some particular joys because it's so detailed and seems so plausible. But the movie shows you dinosaurs, and that's something the book just can't do.
Yeah. So in that case, you would vote movie.
No, I'd say that they both have incredible strengths, and you should watch one and read the other just right afterwards.
Okay. All right. What's your example, Marty, that you were going to say?
Well, the example of a movie that was far superior than the story
Yeah.
that I have is Stand By Me, which was based on a short story called The Body by Stephen King. It was a very straightforward short story with minimal character development, and it was a good story and everything, but Stand By Me, the movie, was actually a really super awesome movie as far as I'm concerned.
Interesting. Well, I asked you guys this question because my next one, I think, is one of the rare occasions where the movie was better than the book, even though they were both very good. Holes. You guys remember that book?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I read that book and the movie.
I saw the movie. I don't know anything about the book.
It's a great book, but like the movie is kick-ass. Like it's the best early 2000s movie Disney put out, in my opinion. Like it's just,
I love that movie.
Yeah,
it's really funny. My kids were reading the book Holes at school, and back in the day, I would read everything the kids read,
nice.
just for fun. Then we could talk about it at dinner time and stuff. And yeah, when the movie came out, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Shia LaBeouf, best movie.
What bus?
Shia LaBeouf.
Oh, I love him. Yeah, he's so great.
Isn't that how you pronounce his name?
Yep. Yeah, he's so. I mean, it was so the way that it like jumped through time and connected all the characters, and it was just, I don't know. I just love it so much. So that's better than the book. Rare occasion.
All right, my next one, I'm going to go with The Princess Bride, which I think.
Oh, how did I not think of that one?
It did not do well when it first came out at the box office. I don't think anybody knew how to market it, but it did well in like the afterburner market and video rentals and stuff like that. And it's since become one of those
classics. Classics. Yeah, definitely. I love that movie.
I've never read the book. Even though I like the author, William Goldman, I've just never gotten past the movie, and so I've never read the book. But
yeah, I've never read the book either.
And you look at the cast of the movie, and it's like, where did they get these people from? These people were all great.
It's true.
Okay, my next one is another great movie that I really love, The Children of Men. That
was on my list.
Oh, it is? So, sucker. Yeah, that was a great movie. I really love that movie. And there was a lot of really good cinematography in that movie, great performances, and the book was really good too.
Interestingly enough, it was written by P.D. James, who is actually like a mystery writer. Only for some reason, she had this idea and wrote a dystopian story about
near future, yeah,
the near future, and there are no more babies being born. Very odd choice, but a very good book and movie.
I didn't prepare much more. I'm running out of ones, but I'll give you one more, which is a weird one from my childhood. James and the Giant Peach by Ronald. I always mispronounce his name. It's not Dahl, or is it Dahl? How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Doll, but don't quote me on that.
Okay, but one of those weird movies where it's like claymation kind of, but super charming and grisly in its own way. Definitely has a Tim Burton feel. Tim Burton might have even produced it. I can't remember, but just super fun. I love when kids movies get adapted into, or kid. I need to stop. This is a bad episode for me. I clearly can't do words today, but yeah. I mean, I love when kids' books turn into movies and they're just done well and they just become a part of your childhood, and that's one for me.
Dave, you got any more?
I have another one. Yes. Neverwhere from Neil Gaiman.
Oh, that's right.
Now, this is interesting to me because it was originally published as a, let's see, 6-episode television series with each episode lasting half an hour on the BBC, with very poor special effects. But the writing is so sharp and crisp that it's still pretty awesome. And even though a couple of the actors aren't that great, it still carries you along, and it's a great film in spite of the issues. It's also been done, Neil Gaiman wrote it up as a novel, which is also very good, and it's been adapted as a graphic novel. I have all three, and I love all of them. It's one of those stories that just, I don't care what format you put it in, I enjoy it.
Yeah, that makes me think of, I was just watching Going Postal. It's a mini series on Netflix or something, and it's really great. And it's a super accurate adaptation from Terry
Hatchet.
Hatchet.
I have not seen it. You're saying it's good?
It is good. I am surprised because I always thought that when I was reading the book that the protagonist had the most hilarious name of any character I've ever seen. His name is Moist.
Oh no!
And it is great. And he gets
Moist
sent
von
to
Ludwig or
be
something like
the
that?
postmaster. It's definitely read the book. The book is awesome, and the BBC miniseries is it's pretty low budget, but it's great. I loved it. I really just
Pretty darn funny.
There is
that wasn't
something-
my pick though. I didn't think of that before the show. I had a different. I still have on the
there
list.
is something to be said though when I find myself liking sometimes these low budget kind of indie type efforts that the only way they can possibly succeed is through a combination of good acting or really sharp writing.
Right.
Special
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah, it's like my list is getting longer here. I didn't think of that beforehand, and that is hilarious because
those are great.
because of the actual writing. And that's been made into a miniseries as well as a movie as well. So that's another one.
Hitchhikers was your pick, or you still have another one?
No, I didn't have that. Wasn't my pick. My next pick was going to be The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson. Great book, really good read to get through. I actually own both the Swedish and the American versions of the movie. I prefer the Swedish version. The Norwegian. Where is it made?
I don't know. I have to look. I thought it was Sweden, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
We'll put it in
the cold Nordic white country.
we'll put it in the comments after this.
Yeah, we'll take care of that later. But great book. I love the book. So the movie, even though it's got pretty brutal scenes in it, is really good.
Well, I don't want to let this episode go by without discussing what we think like the crucial ingredients are to making a good book adaptation into film. What do you guys think like makes Because there's plenty of ones where people are like, "Oh, it's the worst thing I ever saw," and they can't even stand to watch it because it's so bad.
I think it comes down to one thing at the core,
Okay.
which is honoring the intent of the source material.
That's right.
Why would you?
You got to be
change the
faithful.
words?
Got to be faithful to the story, or people will hate it. Because
don't
your primary
deviate.
audience of most stories like this are the reader base
Fans,
of the popular book. Now, granted, some movies are made out of very esoteric books that came out of the woods somewhere, and they're still made into a great movie. But yeah, you got to be faithful to the source material. Dave's absolutely right.
Is there any adaptation that you know of that gets?
Like sometimes you have to make adaptations or you have to cut things, but there's a core to the story, and there's a core to the characters, and if you can capture that in the film, you might be capturing magic. But if you just throw it away,
Is there any movie adaptation that you know of that gets a lot of hate that you think is unjustified hate? Nope, the hate is justified.
I'll use the Jack Reacher movies as an example.
Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
Tom Cruise was not the right pick for the cast.
he's a great actor, but he's not the right person to play a 250-pound
6'6", monster of a guy.
Yeah, and that was kind of proved by the Jack Reacher miniseries that Amazon Prime did, where they got it right, and you're like, wow, this is what the movies should have been.
Not only did they get it right, they were really faithful to the story and the intent, as you say, of The Killing Floor, the book, which I also own and love. Wow, I can't believe all the ones that we're just coming up with off the top of our head.
I know, it just going on. Well, I had to ask those two questions because I think they're big ones when you enter the discussion of book adaptations.
I've got more, unless we.
I got more.
Oh, okay. I'll try to keep up. Go ahead. I'll think of some while you're done.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, it's probably so common, but 2001: A Space Odyssey. It was based on a short story from Arthur C. Clarke called The Sentinel, but then Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke wrote the screenplay and the novel at the same time, each one of them, swapping information back and forth. The book and the movie are a little bit different, but the book is awesome and does a better job of explaining the ending of the movie. And the movie was at the time the most visually arresting film that had probably ever been done. You can't really beat that.
Yep. Well, I got another one. Fight Club is a adaptation that I really love. The author is Chuck Palahniuk.
I can't pronounce his name either.
Yeah, I can't pronounce his last name, but
he's a funny guy though.
The book and the movie are both great.
I can say another weird one from my childhood. Does this count? Ella Enchanted is a really cute fantasy movie based off of a book. I think it was something like called Simply Ella or something. Just about a woman in a magical world who has no powers, and it's sort of a twist on the Cinderella story. But it was with Anne Hathaway, and it was very family friendly but very funny, and it was in that era where they weren't really making a lot of fantasy movies for kids that were live action, and so it was just very refreshing to get one, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. So there you go. I'm struggling to keep up with it. But
I don't remember much about it, except I do remember that I enjoyed it, and would probably watch it again if it was on.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't seek it out, but I'd watch it if it was on.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Well, let me ask you this: do you guys have any adaptations that you don't like?
Plenty. I'll start with sorry, David.
Yeah, go ahead.
Percy Jackson, the first attempt at that. was not so good, and Rick Riordan himself will be the first one to, ream it out. And that certainly did not follow the plot, and it wasn't true to the source material. But it also lost a lot of the humor and just the spunkiness of the book, trading it in for teenage angst and love triangles and that kind of thing. It didn't fit the vibe. No shade to the people who attempted to make it and the actors and all. I mean, I'm sure everyone did the best they could, but it just didn't. The vision wasn't quite right.
Well, I'll give you an interesting one. The movie Jaws. Now, I'll grant you it's not science fiction, but from my perspective, the book is terrible.
I gotta agree with you there, because Peter Benchley, right, wrote that. Yeah.
Yes.
And I read the book, and I actually read the book after seeing the movie, so that probably didn't help my perception of the book, because it's like a lot different.
Yeah.
Different people die in the end, and
and it's doing
Brody's wife was having an affair with the oceanographer dude that Richard Dreyfuss played. It was whack.
And it was trying to do some kind of parallel, like the oceanographer is kind of a shark on land going after women, and the shark is a predator in the sea going after and eating people, and it's like it doesn't really work as a metaphor. But the movie is a brilliant story of survival.
Yeah. So I have a pick of an adaptation that I really was disappointed in, and that's Handmaid's Tale. Have you read the book or seen
Neither.
Seen the series? Disappointed. I gave up on it after like 3 episodes. I couldn't watch it anymore.
But you like the book a lot.
The book was okay. I read that a long time ago, and when I heard that they're adapting it for a miniseries, I got excited about it. I went back and read the book again. I didn't like it as much as I did the first time I read it. And the adaptation just fell totally flat for me.
I can think now of a book that I enjoyed that was made into a terrible film. Something called Damnation Alley by Roger Zelazny.
Yes, that movie that's like becoming a cult classic. That thing.
It's so bad.
It is so bad, but it's got a really cool vehicle in it.
Yeah, the premise is it's kind of post-apocalyptic, and I think it's the folks in Boston are having a plague, but on the other side of the country they have a serum for it. But the climate is so whacked because of this post-apocalyptic weather and stuff that nobody can fly. They need somebody expendable to try to drive across country with all of the dangers and stuff to deliver this serum to Boston so they can save people. And it's a pretty decent book, although I'm not a total fan of the main character, but the movie just misses the mark. And then the director goes, "Oh, we have to have a happy ending, so all the bad weather and stuff will go away and the sky will be blue as soon as they get there." It's like, what?
Yeah, it's like, okay, we're in Pennsylvania now, it's green forests and blue skies. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sorry, dudes, that's not how climate works.
Yeah, it was awful. We could do a whole episode on that, though. We'd have to do a bit more research.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess that's it. Any closing remarks for you guys?
Well, you know what? If my book gets made into a movie, I don't care if it's the worst thing in the world. I'll just be so happy my book's being made into a movie.
I'll just be happy if I sell options.
Yeah, that you
don't even have to make it.
I don't care.
Call me.
Yeah. Here, Hollywood. All of my books are short and available and would make excellent movie.
Yeah.
Contact me about the options.
That's
to be honest, most of your stories are the perfect length for a movie.
Huh.
What he said.
There you go.
That's right.
Those are our closing remarks. Come get
Cool.
it.
All right, guys. We'll see you again next week and for another exciting episode. Take care.